Arthritis. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported a survey of randomly selected Americans aged 65 and older, which found that 411 of 1,012 men and 535 of 1,062 women suffered from some form of arthritis. So we've got Group 1 and Group 2. Group 1, we will use the men, and it says 411 of 1,062 men had arthritis. And for the women, 535, there was 1,012 men and 1,062 women have arthritis. Okay, are the assumptions and conditions necessary for inference satisfied? So the assumptions and conditions, we have independence, random, the 10% condition, the success-failure condition, and the independent groups condition. All right, and these four have to apply to each group, and then this one just has to apply to the overall situation. So it says randomly selected Americans aged 65 and older. So random applies to both men and women. It makes sense that the men are independent of each other. Whether one man has arthritis or not should not affect another man. And same goes for the women, so that applies to both groups. 10%, I do not believe we are oversampling by choosing 1,012 or 1,062 in either case. In success failure, we have 411 men with arthritis, which means we have about 600 who don't, and about 530 women who have arthritis, and about 530 who don't. So in that case, we have over 10 successes and failures in each group. And then if many men have arthritis, that should not affect whether many women have arthritis or not. So the groups are also independent. It says create a 95% confidence interval for the difference in the proportions of senior men and women who have this disease. So we're going to make a 95% confidence interval for the difference in proportions. So the center of the confidence interval is P1 hat minus P2 hat plus or minus Z star. The confidence interval is going to then have plus or minus Z star multiplied by our standard error, which is given by P1 hat Q1 hat divided by N1 plus P2 hat Q2 hat divided by N2. So P1 hat and P2 hat, so solving for these, P1 hat is 411 divided by 1012. So that is 0.406. I'll round off to 0.4061. And then P2 is 535 divided by 1,062. That's 0.5037, or 0.5038 actually. All right, so I'm going to plug this in. 0.4061 minus 0.5038 plus or minus, our Z star for a 95% confidence interval is 1.96. And this quantity up top is going to be 0.4061 times 1 minus 0.4061, 0.5939, divided by N1, the size of group 1, 1,012, plus, extending this, 0.5038 times 1 minus 0.5038, 0.4962 divided by 1,062. Alright, so now it's just a bunch of plugging in a bunch of numbers. So I'm going to do 0.4061 times 0.5939 divided by 1012 plus 0.038 times 0.4962 divided by 1062. And I take the square root of that. And this ends up being 1.96 times 0.0218. And the observed difference, 0.4061 minus 0.5038, is negative 0.0977. So we have negative 0.0977 plus or minus 1.96 times 0.0218. So 1.96 times 0.0218 gives me 0.0427. So this goes to negative 0.0977 plus or minus 0.0427. So plus 0.0, let's actually do minus first. So on the lower end, I get, excuse me, 0.055, and, I'm sorry, negative, yeah. On the upper end, I get negative 0.055, and then on the other end, I get negative 0.1404. So this tells me for part C, I am 95% confident that the proportion of men who have arthritis is between 5.5% to 14, basically 14% lower, because it's negative, than the proportion of women who suffer or who have arthritis. And D says, does this confidence interval suggest that arthritis is more likely to afflict women than men? Yes. 0 is not in our interval. So we have evidence that there is a difference.